So this is the demo we saw in the previous module. And here we're grabbing the version and then we're trying to write to some random file in the temp folder. So what I'd like to do is make use of the property expansion in the policy file and use those properties to apply permissions to this project. So instead of getting the version, let's get the home value first of all. So we'll change this to home. We'll change this to user.home. And then when we write the file, we'll write this rather crudely to home plus, and then simply say out.txt. And again, we're going to write hello world into the file. So let me build this. If I go to the command window, so again, we have a security manager present, and try and run this. The first thing to note is that by default, we're not allowed access to the property user.home. So the first thing we have to do is to set that permission. So in our policy file, we can now add this permission. So I go into here, I'll copy the version permission here. So here we want to say user.home. Let's save the policy file, go back to the command prompt, and from here run the code again. Okay, so now we have permission to read the user home property. I notice you print out my home folder, which is users Kevin in this case, but I don't have permission to write into that folder. And this goes back to where we were yesterday, but now we can use the property expansion in the file. So again, grabbing this error and going back into the policy file. So here I can say permission, and I'll copy in the error we saw. Make sure you put the comma here, the semicolon at the end, and remove the quotes that we don't need here. And at the moment here, I'm simply going to hard code my location. I need to remember to change this to /. And then again, I'll save the policy file, go back to the command prompt, and here run the code again. And now it works. But now I've hard coded me, so my user.home folder. So back in the policy file, we can use the property expansion. So rather than saying C users Kevin here, I can say $braces user.home. And then rather than the / here, I can say $braces /. And again, if I save this and go back to the command prompt and run the code, again, the code works. We're now writing into my home folder. If we think of this as the equivalent of a unit test, the unit test has gone green before I've seen it go red. So I like to see this unit test fail before I let the code out. So I'm going to make another edit to the policy file. I'm going to take out that property expansion, save the file, go back to the command prompt, run the code again, and it should fail. And indeed it does. So it is reading that property file. It is expanding things correctly. So I go and put that back in, again save it, and then run the test again. Again, it's working. So we are writing into that folder. So in the next module, we'll see that rather than editing the default policy file, there are ways to augment or indeed replace that default policy file, which makes sense as we don't want to edit the global policy file. We sort of rather carry the policy file along with us that's required for this application.